Do you hate waiting in line at the bow shop? Are you busy with little to no free time? Do you want perfect arrows that not only look super cool, but shoot incredibly tight groups? If you answered yes to any of these questions, then stick around because in this video, I'm going to show you the best solution to get perfectly built arrows sent right to your door at a fraction of the price of most of the competitors. I've been building my own arrows for the past 4 or 5 seasons, and while it's ultra satisfying to shoot a buck with an arrow that you built from scratch, lately, I've been wondering if it's actually worth the investment. I originally started building my own arrows because I was unhappy with the build quality of my local bow shop and figured once I owned my own arrow saw and fletching jig, I would save a ton of money doing everything myself. The fact of the matter is that there's still a sizable time investment to build a dozen arrows with a high level of precision. I've been following some custom arrow building accounts on Instagram, and I finally reached out to a couple of them to get a quote for what I was looking for, and I was shocked at just how much they were charging. There is no way that I could justify the cost, but between building this channel full-time, having aggressive goals in the deer woods, maintaining a household, and then being present for my wife and soon-to-be 1-year-old son, I continued to look for affordable alternatives, and that is when I discovered the BlackOvis Arrow Builder. In this video, I'm gonna walk you through what it is, how it works, and why I think it's the best place to buy arrows on the internet. If you're unfamiliar with BlackOvis, they sell about anything you can think of related to hunting and camping. They carry just about every name brand out there, and aside from price, this was another reason why I chose their arrow builder over others. Once you go to their Arrow ID Customizer, which I'll link to down below in the description, you can see all of the choices that you're able to make. Arrow brand, model, spine, length, whether you want inserts glued in or not glued in, what size and color wrap, vanes, field points, etc. It's a comprehensive list, but I'm actually gonna walk through this process and order the arrows that I plan to use this fall and show you step by step how it works. So last year I shot Victory VAPs. It's a micro diameter. I really liked it, but this year I wanna shoot the VAP TKOs. It's a very similar arrow, but it has a woven carbon, making it even more durable. As you can see though, you can choose from Gold Tip, Victory, Easton, Black Eagle, which I really like the X Impacts, Bloodsport, Day 6, and Altra arrows, which new company, but they must be pretty good if Levi Morgan switched to them. So regardless of whatever brand you pick, you're then going to be able to select what model arrow you want. And if you need suggestions, feel free to ask in the comments and I'll try to help you out the best I can. Otherwise, you can actually reach out to BlackOvis via chat, phone, or email, and they'll be able to walk you through the entire process. For this build, I'm going to choose the VAP TKO Elite, which is their tightest tolerance, which means it's going to be the straightest arrow possible that they sell, and in theory should group as consistent as humanly possible. It's a little bit more expensive, but to me it's worth it. I already know that I'm going to need a 300 spine arrow, but if you're unsure what spine arrow you need, I would go to the manufacturer's website for whatever brand arrow you pick, look at their spine chart, and figure out what you need. Next is the arrow length, and it specifies the valley of the nock to the end of the carbon. So it's not just carbon to carbon, you're gonna measure the valley of the nock. So from the valley of the nock to the end of the carbon, what do you need? So I've already done the math. I need 29 3/4. I have a very long draw length. I'm 6'5", so my arrows are extremely long. But the one thing you have to take into consideration is if you shoot a micro diameter like I am, most of them have some type of insert-outsert combo, and it adds a little bit of length. So I know I want my total arrow build to be about 30.5 or 30 3/4 inches. So I am intentionally getting shorter than I need because I know when I have them insert the components, it's gonna add a little bit of length to the arrow. So that's just something to think about. If you need help, again, reach out to me directly and I'll do my best to walk you through it. But do not mess up this step. Once you have cut arrows, you cannot return them. But again, do not measure with just the end of the carbon. You're measuring from the valley of the nock to the end of the carbon. 29 3/4 is what I need. You can choose whether you want your inserts glued in or not glued in. I want mine glued in. Why you would not want your inserts glued in is if you didn't have your arrows cut, or if you wanted to do some advanced tuning, which I'm not going to talk about here. I'm just going to get mine glued in. You can choose what color wrap you want. I'm going to go with orange. to match my bow strings and just maintain that. It's basically going to look similar to this arrow, but I want orange wrap, and you could also go with no wrap if you preferred, but I like having a wrap, and I also like that it tells you how much each of these components weighs. For fletching count, you can either choose 3 or 4 vanes. I have tinkered with this a lot, and what I've found is 4 smaller vanes is super versatile, whether I want to shoot a mechanical or if I want to shoot a small fixed blade. A 4 fletch can basically do anything without a huge drawback. So I'm going to go with a 4 vane, and as far as what vane, you have all sorts of vanes to choose from. Last year I did boning heat vanes. They were a little stiffer than I would have liked, and this year I'm going to try the tack driver 2 3/4 inch. I have a couple buddies that shoot these. They swear by them. They say they're super quiet and do a really good job. So we're going to go with the tack vanes, 6.2 grains per vane, which I appreciate them sharing that. And then you can obviously choose the color. I'm going to choose orange for both my primary and secondary. Just like this arrow build, I just want them all the same. If I did a 3 fletch, I'd probably have my 1 vane a different color so I know which one to have set out. Now we have vane angle, and vane angle is something that takes a little bit of figuring out. As you can see here, we have straight, all sorts of right and left offset options, and then a right and left helical. And the thing with helical or offset is that you want to basically match the way that your arrow is coming out of your bow naturally. So if you were to take all of these vanes off of the arrow and fire it out of your bow, your arrow is still going to rotate. It's not going to rotate as fast. So what I did is I had an arrow from last year that I was missing some vanes. I just cut off the remaining vanes, and then I took a Sharpie and drew a line on top of the arrow. And I fired that arrow into a target at about 10 or 12 feet, and I was able to tell that the arrow rotated clockwise about 90 degrees. So I did that test 2 or 3 times to make sure that I was seeing the right direction. But since it was turning clockwise, I chose a right helical. If it was turning counterclockwise or turning left, you'd want a left helical or a left offset. So I'm going to go ahead and go with a right helical. And what that's going to do for me is help stabilize my arrow faster out of the bow. So it's going to force the arrow to spin faster, and it's going to stabilize the arrow flight earlier. The only downside is that also creates additional drag, and at longer distances can slow your arrow down. For nocks, you can choose a specific color. I'm just going to go with factory. I don't really care, and I'm going to be shooting lighted nocks when it actually comes to a hunting scenario. And then field points, you can choose a different brand and different grains. I already have some from last year, so I'm just going to select none. One thing to consider at this step is if you're ordering an arrow that is a micro diameter and you've usually been using a standard diameter arrow, you're likely going to need a different diameter field point, so it might be worth just tacking on 100 grain if you're going to shoot 100 grain broadhead or 125 grain, and adding field points that are going to be matched to the diameter of your new arrows. Last but not least, we have build speed. So you either have the standard option, which is 3 to 5 business days, and then lightning, which is 1 to 2 business days. And if you're running late on a hunt or you are procrastinating and season opens up next week, I'd probably do the expedited option, but otherwise save yourself some money, do the standard. So that's what I'm going to do. And as you can see, the total is $287.96. So these arrows, bare shafts without any fletchings or any components, are going to be right around $225. So for just a little bit more, you skip all the time investment and all the thought that you got to put into building a super precise arrow, and they're going to show up right at your door. So I'm going to go ahead and order these, and I'm going to show you how they turn out when they get here. All right, just got my arrows in, and these things look absolutely filthy. Here we have the VAP TKO with those tack driver vanes, and I actually went through and I weighed every single one of these arrows, and they were all within a single grain of each other, which is awesome. I mean, that's about all you can ask for. So I basically have the straightest tolerance arrow that they make. They're all the same weight essentially. and I'm excited to get shooting. Again, I will link to the arrow builder down below in the description, but if you're somebody that just wants things done right without spending a ton of time and brain power on getting it done, go ahead and order yourself some arrows and have confidence rolling into this upcoming season. Pretty soon here, I'll make a video highlighting this year's bow build, and this is the sickest bow I've ever owned in my entire life, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss it. If you are somebody that is interested in building your own arrows, click this video right here.